I knew something was wrong the moment I opened the apartment door. The lights were on. Marcus never left lights on when he went to work. He was obsessive about energy costs, about efficiency, about maintaining the perfect image of financial responsibility that his family expected. But it was 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the living room glowed warm and golden like someone was home. My name is Stetson Vale. I'm 26 years old, a sound engineer, and until about 30 seconds ago, I thought I was engaged to a man who loved me. The recording session had been canceled. My client, a local indie band, had called an hour ago saying their lead singer had the flu. I'd already set up the studio, already prepped the equipment, so I'd packed up early and decided to surprise Marcus with lunch from his favorite place. The Thai takeout containers were still warm in my hands when I heard it. A laugh, feminine, bright, familiar in the worst possible way. Then Marcus's voice, low and amused in a way he never sounded with me anymore. I should have left. Should have walked back out the door, gotten in my car, driven away. Should have protected myself from whatever I was about to see. Instead, I walked down the hallway toward our bedroom, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The door was open. Marcus was in our bed, the bed we'd picked out together 6 months ago when we moved in, and he wasn't alone. Ivy, my cousin, her blonde hair spread across my pillow, her hands in his dark hair, her mouth on his. They were so focused on each other they didn't notice me standing there, frozen in the doorway, still holding Thai food like an idiot. It wasn't just a kiss, it was intimacy. The kind that came from familiarity, from practice, from months of knowing exactly what the other person liked. I must have made a sound, a gasp or a choke or something, because they both stopped. Ivy saw me first. Her eyes went wide, but there was no guilt there. Just surprise, like I'd walked in on something mildly inconvenient instead of devastating. Marcus pulled back slowly. He didn't scramble, didn't panic, just ran a hand through his hair and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Stetson. His voice was calm, too calm. You're home early. The takeout containers slipped from my hands and hit the floor. Sweet and sour sauce splattered across the hardwood we'd just had refinished. What? My voice broke. I tried again. What is this? Ivy sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. She had the audacity to look apologetic. Stetson, I'm sorry. We didn't want you to find out this way. Find out times what? I was shaking now, my whole body vibrating with something between rage and heartbreak. Marcus swung his legs out of bed, reaching for his pants. Don't be dramatic, Stetson. You knew what this engagement was. I stared at him. What? He pulled on his pants with infuriating casualness, like we were having a conversation about dinner plans instead of my entire life falling apart. My family needs your studio's reputation, he said, buttoning his shirt now. Your parents need my family's money to keep their business afloat. This was always a transaction. Love was never part of the deal. The words hit like physical blows. That's not, I couldn't breathe. You said you loved me. I said what I needed to say to make this work. Marcus looked at me with something like pity. Come on, Stetson. You're smarter than this. Did you really think someone like me would choose someone like you without a reason? Someone like you. An Omega from a middle-class family, no prestigious bloodline, no political connections, just talent that could be bought and sold. Ivy stood up, wrapping herself in my bathrobe. Marcus and I have been together for 8 months. She said gently, like that made it better, since before the engagement. I'm sorry, cousin, but we're in love. Then why? I looked between them. Why did you propose to me? Marcus sighed like I was being deliberately obtuse. Because my father won't approve a bond with an Omega who doesn't have professional credentials. Ivy works in retail. You have a successful studio, awards, recognition. On paper, you're perfect. In practice, he shrugged. In practice, I was just a placeholder, a name he could bring home to his alpha father while he fucked my cousin in secret. I should have screamed, should have thrown something, should have done anything except stand there bleeding from wounds they couldn't see. You need to leave, I finally managed. Marcus raised an eyebrow. This is my apartment. It's times our times apartment. We're engaged. And that engagement still stands, Marcus said. My family has already announced it. Your parents have already started using my family's connections to save their business. Breaking it now would destroy them financially. I don't care. You should. He walked past me toward the kitchen. I heard the refrigerator open, heard him getting a drink like this was a normal Tuesday afternoon. Your parents are counting on this marriage, Stetson. So are mine. So unless you want to be responsible for ruining two families? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I looked at Ivy. She was watching me with something that might have been sympathy but looked more like triumph. Get out, I said quietly. Stetson, get out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret. She grabbed her clothes and left, squeezing my shoulder as she passed, like we were still family, like she hadn't just destroyed me. Marcus appeared in the doorway, drink in hand. The Kane Industries charity gala is tonight, 7 p.m. at Obsidian Tower. Your parents expect us both to attend. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. His voice was harder now. Because if you don't, I'll tell my father the engagement is off. He'll pull the funding from your parents' business. They'll lose everything, their company, their house, their retirement, and it will be because their Omega son couldn't handle reality. I stared at him. At this man I thought I loved, thought I'd build a life with. I hate you, I whispered. You'll get over it. Marcus set down his glass. Wear the navy suit, it photographs well, and for God's sake, smile. We have a reputation to maintain. He left. I heard the front door close, heard the lock click, and I stood there in the hallway, surrounded by spilled Thai food and shattered dreams, and wondered how I'd been so stupid. My phone rang. My mother. Stetson, darling, Marcus just called. He said there was a misunderstanding? Of course he did. Mom, I need to tell you something. Not now, sweetheart. I'm calling about tonight. The Kane Gala is incredibly important. The triplets will be there, half the city's business elite. This is exactly the kind of exposure your father's company needs. You understand how important this is? I understood. I understood that my feelings, my pain, my entire existence was secondary to business deals and social climbing. I'll be there, I heard myself say. Wonderful. And Stetson be charming. Marcus's father is bringing investors. We need to make a good impression. She hung up before I could respond. I looked down at myself, sweet and sour sauce on my shoes. My hands were shaking. My chest felt too tight, like my lungs had forgotten how to work. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to not exist for a few hours. Instead, I cleaned up the mess, showered, and pulled out the navy suit Marcus had told me to wear. Because that's what good Omegas did. We smiled, we performed, we made everyone else comfortable while we bled internally. The Kane Industries charity gala was exactly as terrible as I'd expected. Obsidian Tower lived up to its name, a gleaming black skyscraper that dominated the city skyline, all sharp angles and tinted glass that reflected the sunset like dark fire. The building housed Kane Industries headquarters, and tonight the top 3 floors had been transformed into a glittering showcase of wealth and power. I arrived alone. Marcus had texted saying he'd meet me there, which was fine, better than fine. I didn't want to spend a second more with him than absolutely necessary. The elevator ride to the 75th floor felt like ascending into a different world. The doors opened onto a massive ballroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, crystal chandeliers, and enough expensive floral arrangements to pay my rent for a year. I spotted my parents immediately. They were talking to a group of investors. My mother's laugh too bright, my father's smile too wide. When they saw me, my mother's eyes did a quick scan, checking my suit, my posture, making sure I was presentable. I passed inspection. She gave a small, satisfied nod before turning back to her conversation. Marcus found me at the bar. There you are. He kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. His scent pine and something expensive made my stomach turn. Smile, darling. People are watching. I smiled, because that's what I did. I invited Ivy, Marcus said casually. She's here with the retail contingent. I trust that won't be a problem? Of course he did. Of course she was. I need air, I said. Don't disappear for too long. My father wants to introduce us to the Kane triplets. I walked away before I said something I couldn't take back. The problem with massive corporate events is that there's nowhere to actually be alone. The balconies were full of people smoking and networking. The sitting areas were occupied by small groups having intense business discussions. Every hallway seemed to lead to more people, more noise, more expectations. I found myself in a quieter corridor on the 76th floor. This area seemed less party and more corporate, tasteful art on the walls, thick carpet, muted lighting. There were fewer people up here, just servers moving between the floors and the occasional executive stepping away to take a call. I walked until I found a door marked private. Perfect. Nobody would be in there. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was dim, lit only by monitors and medical equipment that glowed with soft blue light. It took my eyes a moment to adjust, to process what I was seeing. 3 men, no 3 alphas. I could scent them immediately, their pheromones sharp and overwhelming, even in distress. One was strapped to a medical chair, his head thrown back, breathing ragged. His dark hair was damp with sweat, his eyes unfocused and glowing gold in the dim light. Black coffee and leather, his scent cut through everything else. Another stood by a medical cart, his hands shaking as he tried to draw something from a vial, rain and steel. He was fighting so hard to stay controlled that his jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. The third was on the floor, surrounded by shattered medical equipment. His knuckles were bleeding, his breath coming in short gasps, mint and smoke. He looked up when I entered, and his eyes were the same unnatural gold. And there was a woman, older, professional, clearly a doctor, trying to manage all 3 of them at once. They all froze when they saw me. The omega part of my brain immediately registered the danger. 3 alphas in distress, losing control, probably seconds away from shifting. I should have run, should have screamed, should have done anything except stand there. But I couldn't move because something was happening. My scent, vanilla and cedarwood, flooded the room as my suppressants failed under stress. I felt it wash over them, saw the exact moment it registered. The alpha in the chair stopped thrashing. His breathing slowed. His eyes began to clear. The one with the vial set it down carefully, his hands steadying. The one on the floor lifted his head, and the gold faded from his eyes back to dark brown. The doctor stared at me like I'd just performed a miracle. "What the hell?" she breathed. The alpha who'd been strapped down spoke first. His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" My voice came out small, terrified. The door was unlocked. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Don't leave." The one on the floor cut me off. He was younger, not by much, but something in his face was softer. "Please, don't leave." The analytical one by the medical cart studied me with intense focus. "Your scent. What is it?" I didn't know how to answer that. "I'm just an omega. I wasn't trying to." "You're not times, just times anything." The doctor moved closer, but carefully, like approaching a spooked animal. "What's your name?" Stetson Vale." "I'm Dr. Helena Cross." She glanced at the 3 alphas. "And these are the Kane brothers. You just walked in on something you should never have seen." The Kane brothers, the Triplet alpha CEOs who owned this building, this company, half the city's commercial real estate. I'd seen their photos in business magazines, always together, always serious, always radiating power. They looked different now. Vulnerable. Shattered. Human. The one who'd been in the chair stood up slowly. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive shirt that was now soaked with sweat. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and his eyes, back to their normal gray, pinned me in place. "You can't tell anyone what you saw here," he said. "It wasn't a request." "I won't," I promised immediately. "I swear, we'll make sure of it." He looked at the doctor. "Helena, what the hell just happened?" She was staring at her monitors. "I don't know, but look at this." She turned a screen toward them. "All 3 of your cortisol levels dropped the moment he walked in. Heart rate's normalizing, neural patterns stabilizing." "That's impossible," the analytical one said. "I'm looking at the data. It's not impossible. It's happening." Dr. Cross looked at me. "How long have you been on suppressants?" "Since I was 16. "But you're not on them now." I felt heat in my cheeks. "They failed. I've been stressed and it's not the suppressants." The softest one was standing now, looking at me with something like wonder. "It's him. We're reacting to times him." The leader, because that's clearly what he was, stepped closer. I should have backed away. Instead, I stood there, frozen, as he stopped inches from me. "What are you doing at this gala, Stetson Vale?" His voice was quieter now, but no less intense. My fiancé. The word tasted like poison. He brought me. For appearances. Something flickered across his face. You're bonded? No. Just engaged. Does he know you're up here? No one knows I'm up here. I was just looking for somewhere quiet. The three brothers exchanged looks, some silent communication passing between them. Then the leader spoke. You're hired. I blinked. What? You're hired. Effective immediately. Personal sound consultant for Kane Industries. You'll move into our corporate residence, start tomorrow. I already have a job. We'll double whatever you're making. I don't understand. You don't need to. His eyes held mine. You need to decide, right now, yes or no. But I don't even know what. Yes or no, Stetson. The softer one touched his brother's arm. Dom, you're scaring him. Dominic Kane, the eldest, CEO of operations. Which meant the analytical one was Demeter, CEO of development. And the softer one was Benny, CEO of innovation. I'm not trying to scare him, Dominic said, still watching me. I'm trying to solve a problem. You felt what happened when he walked in. We all did. For the first time in months, the episode just stopped. You can't just hire someone off the street because of their scent, Demeter argued. But he was looking at me too, studying me like I was a particularly interesting equation. Why not? Benny asked. It worked, didn't it? We don't even know if it's repeatable. It could have been a fluke. Only one way to find out. Dominic turned to Dr. Cross. Can you set up a monitoring system, track the episodes when he's present versus when he's not? I can, but... Then do it. He looked back at me. You'll receive a contract tomorrow morning. Salary, benefits, housing, everything. All we need from you is your presence and discretion. And if I say no? His expression didn't change. Then you'll sign an NDA so comprehensive that you won't be able to tell anyone what color this room was painted. And we'll handle our problem the way we've been handling it poorly. It should have felt like a threat. Maybe it was. But something in me, the part that had just watched three powerful alphas reduced to breaking, the part that had somehow helped them without meaning to that part, wanted to say, yes. I need to think about it. You have until morning. Dominic pulled a card from his pocket and handed it to me. His fingers brushed mine, and I felt that jolt again. That sense of something clicking into place. My private number, call before 8 a.m. Dr. Cross was already cleaning up the medical equipment. You should go back to the gala. People will be looking for you. She was right. I'd been gone too long. Marcus would have noticed. I backed toward the door, unable to take my eyes off the three of them. They watched me go with identical, intense expressions, and I felt the weight of that attention like a physical thing. Stetson, Benny called out just as I reached the door. I turned. Thank you for not running. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded and left. The hallway felt too bright after the dim medical room. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened, when I heard my name. Stetson, there you are. My mother, hurrying toward me with Marcus in tow. Where have you been? She was smiling, but there was steel underneath. Marcus's father wants to introduce you to some investors. I just needed some air. Well, you've had enough. Come on. She linked her arm through mine and steered me back toward the ballroom. Marcus walked on my other side, his hand possessive on my lower back. You look flushed, he observed. Are you feeling all right? I'm fine. Good, because tonight is important. I need you focused. I wanted to laugh. He needed me focused while he was fucking my cousin in our bed. The rest of the gala passed in a blur. I smiled. I shook hands. I made small talk with people whose names I forgot immediately. And the whole time, Dominic Kane's card burned in my pocket like a brand. When I finally got home back to the apartment that no longer felt like mine, I pulled out the card. Simple black print, no company logo, just a name and a number. I should throw it away, should forget what I saw, sign whatever NDA they sent, and move on with my life. Instead, I stared at my phone until 2 a.m., then sent a single text. Yes. The response came immediately. Car will pick you up at 9 a.m. Bring what you need for a week. The rest can be arranged later. D.C. I looked around the apartment, at Marcus's things mixed with mine, at the life we'd supposedly been building. and I started packing. The car that arrived at 9 a.m. was exactly what I'd expected. Sleek, black, expensive. The driver was a quiet beta woman who helped me load my bags and said nothing about the fact that I was clearly moving out of somewhere. The drive to Obsidian Tower took 15 minutes. She used a private entrance, a keycard that accessed an executive elevator that went straight to the top floor. When the doors opened, I stepped into a space that looked more like a luxury apartment than an office. The penthouse level of Obsidian Tower was its own world. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 3 sides showed the city spreading out below. The interior was all clean lines and expensive materials, dark wood, soft leather, subtle lighting that made everything feel warm despite the modern aesthetic. Mr. Vale. I turned to find a woman in her 50s, professionally dressed, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. I'm Caroline. I manage the executive residence. The Kane brothers are in meetings until noon, but they asked me to get you settled. She led me through the space, pointing out areas as we went. Common areas here, living room, dining room, kitchen. The brothers' private wings are on the north, east, and west sides. You'll be in the south wing guest quarters, though we've converted it for your use. My quarters were nicer than any apartment I'd ever lived in. Bedroom with an attached bathroom, a small sitting area, and, is that a music room? I stared through the glass wall at a beautiful space with acoustic panels and equipment. Mr. Demeter Kane had it installed last night. He researched your work and thought you'd need a proper studio space. Caroline's expression softened slightly. They're serious about this arrangement, Mr. Vale. Whatever you're here to do, they want you comfortable. She left me to unpack. I'd barely started when my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Where are you? No greeting. Just accusation. I moved out. Silence. Then, what? I moved out of the apartment. I'm done, Marcus, with you, with Ivy, with all of it. You can't just Stetson. We have an agreement. An agreement you broke when you fucked my cousin in our bed. That's not... He took a breath. I could picture him running his hand through his hair, trying to stay calm. You're being emotional. Come home and we'll talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I'm ending the engagement. Your parents won't allow it. I'm 26 years old. They can't stop me. They can and they will when they realize you're about to destroy their business. That stopped me, because he was right. My parents had already started using Marcus's family connections. Contracts had been signed, money had changed hands. I'll figure it out, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. How? You're a sound engineer, Stetson. You make decent money, but not enough to bail out your parents' company. Not enough to repay what they've already spent based on our upcoming marriage. My stomach sank. Unless? Marcus's voice changed, became calculating. Is this about someone else? Did you meet someone at the gala last night? This is about you betraying me. Come home. We'll work this out. Ivy was a mistake. It won't happen again. I don't care if it happens again. I don't want you anymore. Stetson. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat down on the unfamiliar bed in this unfamiliar room and tried to remember how to breathe. A knock on the door. Mr. Vale, Caroline's voice. The brothers are ready for you. I found them in what Caroline called the conference room, a smaller, more intimate space with a table that seated 8 and walls lined with screens. All 3 of them stood when I entered. They'd changed since last night now in business casual, though they still radiated that same intense presence. Stetson. Dominic gestured to a chair. Sit, please. I sat. They remained standing, and I noticed they'd positioned themselves in a loose triangle around me. Not threatening, but definitely intentional. I assume you have questions, Demeter said. A lot of them. Then let's start with answers. Benny pulled out a chair across from me. What do you want to know? What's wrong with you? The question came out blunter than I'd intended. Last night, that wasn't normal. What was happening? The 3 brothers exchanged glances. We have a genetic condition, Dominic said finally. It runs in alpha bloodlines, specifically ours. It causes progressive loss of emotional regulation. Episodes of rage that we can't control. They've been getting worse. How worse? 6 months ago, I had 1 episode a month, Demeter said quietly. Now, it's every other day. Sometimes twice a day. We're managing it with medication and medical intervention, Dominic continued. But it's not enough anymore. We're losing control more frequently. And if the wrong people find out, the board of directors will force us to step down. Benny finished. They'll declare us medically unfit to run the company. Our competitors would destroy us. Everything our family built would be dismantled. I looked between them. And you think I can help with this? We don't think. We know. Demeter pulled up something on one of the screen's medical readouts I didn't understand. This is our neural activity during an episode. And this, he pulled up another screen. This is from last night. The moment you walked in, everything stabilized. Cortisol dropped. Adrenaline normalized. The rage response just stopped. I don't understand how that's possible. Neither do we, Dominic admitted. But Dr. Cross has been monitoring us for months. She's never seen anything like it. So, what exactly do you want from me? Your presence, Benny said. That's all. Just be here. Let us see if it's repeatable, if it's sustainable, if we can actually manage this condition with you nearby. And in exchange? Dominic slid a folder across the table. Everything's in there. Salary, benefits, housing, all of which you're getting regardless. But there's also discretion agreements, NDAs, medical waivers. I opened the folder. The salary number made my breath catch. It was more than triple what I made at my studio. This is too much. It's exactly what you're worth to us, Dominic said. If you can do what you did last night, if you can give us even a few hours of stability, it's worth 10 times that amount. I looked at the contract, at the number that would solve all my problems, would let me pay off whatever my parents owed Marcus's family, would let me break the engagement without destroying their business. I need to know something, I said. What happens if this doesn't work? If it was just a fluke last night? Then we compensate you for your time and release you from the contract. No penalty. Demeter's voice was steady, professional. But we need to try. And if it does work, then we renegotiate after 6 months. See if this is sustainable long term. I looked at each of them. At these 3 powerful alphas who were clearly desperate enough to hire a stranger based on one incident. I'll need to maintain my studio work, my clients. We've already arranged to rent your studio space, Benny said. Your assistant can handle day-to-day operations. You'll still be the creative director, but you can work remotely from here. They'd thought of everything. I'm ending my engagement, I said. It's going to cause problems. Family drama, probably some social fallout. We can handle family drama, Dominic replied. We've been managing it our whole lives. I picked up the pen, signed the contract before I could overthink it. Welcome to Kane Industries, Demeter said, and something that might have been relief flickered across his face. When do we start? Now. Dominic checked his watch. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Demeter has a conference call at 2. Benny has investor presentations all afternoon. The question is, do any of us make it through without an episode? What do you want me to do? Exist, Benny said simply. Just be nearby. We'll see what happens. What happened was subtle at first. Dominic's board meeting went smoothly. I stayed in the observation room, working on my laptop while he presented quarterly reports. I felt him glance at me once through the glass, then seemed to settle. Demeter's conference call involved some technical crisis with a supplier. I heard his voice rise twice, caught that dangerous edge creeping in. Then he paused, seemed to steady himself, and finished the call calmly. By the time Benny's investor presentations rolled around, I was starting to understand the pattern. They were aware of me constantly. Even when they weren't looking at me directly, they knew where I was, and that awareness seemed to act like an anchor, pulling them back when they started to spiral. Dr. Cross confirmed it that evening. The episodes are still building, she explained, showing me charts I was learning to read. The neurological response is the same: fight or flight activation, adrenaline spike, all the markers of losing control. But they're aborting earlier, pulling back before it becomes critical. Because of me? Because of your scent, your presence, something. She looked at me with scientific fascination. I've been treating them for 2 years. I've tried every pharmaceutical intervention available. Nothing has worked like this. But it's not a cure. No, it's management. But management is what they need right now. That night, I lay awake in my new room, listening to the city hum below. This was supposed to be temporary, a job, a transaction. So why did it feel like something more? The first week passed in a strange rhythm. Mornings, I'd have breakfast in the common kitchen, usually arriving to find Benny already there, making coffee that was too strong and scrolling through his phone. He'd look up when I entered, smile, that soft smile, and say something normal like, "Sleep okay?" As if this whole situation was perfectly ordinary. Demeter appeared next, always carrying a book or a tablet, always reading something technical. He'd nod at me, grab whatever Benny had made, and sit at the counter making notes and margins. Dominic came last, already dressed for the day in expensive suits, hair perfect, expression unreadable. He'd pour coffee, glance at his brothers, then at me, and say nothing. But I felt that glance. Felt it every time. Then they'd scatter to their respective offices within the building, and I'd either work in my studio or accompany whichever one of them had meetings that day. That was the job, apparently, my presence. It felt ridiculous at first. I'd sit in observation rooms or corner offices, working on my laptop while they ran a billion-dollar company. But after the third time, I watched Dominic's hands start to shake during a difficult negotiation, only to steady when he glanced at me through the glass wall. I started to understand. They weren't using me. They were surviving through me. "Tell me about your fiancée," Benny said on day 5. We were in his office, all windows and plants and warm wood, completely different from Dominic's austere space or Demeter's tech-heavy laboratory. Benny designed products, and his space reflected that creative energy. I looked up from the sound mixing I'd been working on. "Ex-fiancé." "Right, the one who brought you to the gala." Benny was sketching something on a tablet, but his attention was on me. "You seemed uncomfortable when you mentioned him." "I caught him in bed with my cousin the day before the gala." Benny's stylus stopped moving. "Jesus." "Yeah. And you still went to the event?" My parents insisted. Appearances matter more than feelings, apparently. He set down the tablet. "That's why you were up on 76. You were running from him." "I was running from everything." I met his eyes. "Your medical room just happened to be where I ended up." "Lucky us." "Is it?" I gestured at the monitors on his wall, the ones that tracked his vital signs, his neural patterns, all the data, doctor. Cross-collected. "You hired a stranger because his scent happens to calm you down during episodes. That's not luck. That's desperation." Benny didn't flinch. "You're right. We are desperate. But that doesn't make you any less valuable. I'm a temporary fix." "Maybe. Or maybe you're exactly what we needed to find." He picked up his stylus again. "Either way, I'm glad you walked through that door." On day 7, I met their sister. I was in the music room, working on a composition for one of my clients, when I heard someone enter the penthouse, young voice, feminine, calling out, "I'm home." I stayed where I was, figuring whoever it was would know I was here. 5 minutes later, a girl appeared in the doorway of my studio. 19, maybe 20, with the same dark hair as her brothers and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked, not rudely, just direct. "Stetsonvale. How did I explain this? I work for your brothers." "Doing what?" "Sound engineering, corporate wellness content." "Huh." She came into the room, examining my equipment with interest. "I'm Lydia, the sister, music student at the conservatory." She pointed at my monitors. "What are you working on?" "Indie band demo. They're trying to get signed." "Can I listen?" I played her the rough cut. She stood there, head tilted, really listening. "The bass is too heavy in the second verse," she said finally. "It's competing with the vocals." She was right. You have a good ear. I have 3 perfectionist brothers. You learn to notice details. She sat down on the couch I'd barely used. "So, are you dating them?" I choked on nothing. "What?" "My brothers. Are you dating them? All 3? Because that would be..." "I'm not dating anyone. I'm working here. In the penthouse. Where they live. In the guest wing. That they never let anyone use." She grinned. "Come on. I've been waiting for years for them to find someone. Please tell me you're that someone." "Lydia, they're different with you here. I noticed the second I walked in. The whole place feels lighter." I didn't know what to say to that. She pulled out her phone. "Want to see embarrassing childhood photos? I have tons." Before I could protest, she was showing me pictures of 3 serious boys at various ages. Always together, always intense. "They've been like this forever," she said. Even as kids. It's the condition. It makes them afraid to let anyone close. You know about it? Of course I know. I grew up watching them struggle. Her expression sobered. Our grandfather had it. It killed him when I was 5. Our father had it too, died when I was 10. And now them. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help them. She looked at me with surprising directness. I don't know what you're doing that's working, but keep doing it, please. That night, Dominic asked to see me in his office. It was late past 10. I'd been about to go to bed when Caroline knocked on my door with the message. His office was on the north side of the penthouse, all dark wood and leather, with a view of the city that probably cost more than my entire childhood home. He stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at the lights below. You wanted to see me? I stayed by the door, uncertain. Come in. Close the door. I did. Sit. I sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. He turned from the window, leaning against the sill. It's been a week, he said. Yes. How are you finding the arrangement? Fine. Your sister is nice. A ghost of a smile. Lydia tends to be aggressively friendly. I hope she didn't overwhelm you. She showed me childhood photos. Of course she did. He pushed off from the window, moving to sit on the edge of his desk. Closer now, but still maintaining distance. I wanted to discuss something with you. Something that's come up. Okay? Your ex-fiancé has been calling, multiple times. He's also attempted to access the building twice. My stomach dropped. Marcus? Marcus Whitfield. Yes. He's claiming you're being held here against your will, that we've coerced you into some kind of contract. That's not I chose to be here. I know, but he's making noise, and noise attracts attention. The kind of attention we can't afford. Dominic's expression was neutral, but I heard the steel underneath. I need to know if you want us to handle this, or if you'd prefer to deal with him yourself. What does handle this mean? Legal intervention, restraining orders, whatever it takes to make him understand that you're here by choice and that harassing you has consequences. The idea of Marcus facing legal consequences for his behavior was appealing, but he'll claim I'm doing this to hurt him, that I'm bitter about the engagement ending. Are you bitter? I'm furious, but not because the engagement ended because of how it ended, because he used me. Dominic was quiet for a moment. Then, may I ask you something personal? Sure. Why didn't you leave him earlier, before the gala, before catching him with your cousin? You had to have known something was wrong. I looked away. I didn't want to see it. And my parents, they were so happy about the engagement, the connections it brought, the business opportunities. Leaving would have disappointed them. So you stayed miserable to keep them happy? Yes. That's a pattern you should break, Stetson. I looked at him. Speaking from experience? Always. He stood. I'll have our legal team draft the necessary documents. Marcus Whitfield won't bother you again. Thank you. I started to stand, but he held up a hand. One more thing. The board is asking questions about you, who you are, why you're here, what your role is. What are you telling them? That you're a consultant specializing in corporate wellness and ambient design, which is technically true, but they're curious about why you're living here. What do you want me to tell them if they ask? The truth that we're piloting a new wellness program and you're the lead consultant, they don't need to know the details. And if they demand details, then I'll remind them who signs their paychecks. His voice was flat, final. I couldn't help it, I smiled. Something funny? Dominic asked, but there was the faintest curve to his mouth. You're very used to getting your way. I'm a CEO of a billion-dollar company. Getting my way is part of the job description. Does it work in your personal life too? The question came out before I could stop it. Too familiar, too forward. But Dominic didn't seem offended. He just looked at me with those intense gray eyes and said, I wouldn't know. I don't have a personal life. That sounds lonely. It's safe. Lonely and safe are often the same thing. We stood there for a moment, something heavy hanging in the air between us. Then Dominic stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow we have back-to-back meetings, and I'd prefer not to have an episode in front of the shareholders. I left, but I felt his eyes on me until I turned the corner. Week 2 brought a different kind of challenge. Demeter cornered me in my studio on day 9. I need to run some tests, he said without preamble. I looked up from my laptop. What kind of tests? Scent analysis. Pheromone profiling. Blood work to check hormone levels. Why? Because I need to understand what's happening. Why you specifically have this effect on us. He had a tablet in his hands, already pulling up charts and data. Doctor, Cross has been monitoring our responses, but I need more information. The scientific data doesn't explain the mechanism. Maybe there isn't a mechanism, maybe it's just random. Nothing is random. He sat down across from me. Everything has a cause. Your scent profile, your omega biology, something in your pheromone signature, it's interacting with our alpha chemistry in a way I've never seen documented. And you think blood tests will tell you what? I think they might tell me if this is sustainable, if there are factors that could make it stop working, if he stopped, jaw tightening. If what? If we're becoming dependent on you in a way that could be dangerous. That made me pause. What do you mean dangerous? Demeter set down the tablet. Dominic's episodes used to last 30 minutes before medication brought him down. Now they abort in 5 if you're nearby. But what happens if you're not nearby? What if the episodes get worse because we've grown dependent on your presence? You think I'm making it worse? I think we don't have enough data to know either way. He met my eyes. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to protect everyone, including you. If this bond we're forming is temporary, if it's going to fail at some point, we need to know before it becomes critical. He had a point. Okay, I said. Run your tests. Dr. Cross drew blood the next morning, took samples for scent analysis, asked me questions about my medical history, my omega biology, my suppressant usage. When did you go off suppressants? She asked. The night of the gala. They failed under stress. And you haven't gone back on? Should I? She looked at the monitors showing the brothers' vital signs, all stable, all calm. No, don't change anything. Whatever you're doing naturally seems to be working. The results came back on day 12. Demeter found me in the common area, reading on the couch while Benny worked nearby. I have the analysis, he said. Benny looked up. And? His pheromone profile is unique. Not abnormal, just rare. He's producing a chemical signature that specifically counters elevated cortisol and adrenaline in alpha biology. In English, Benny requested. His scent literally calms aggressive alpha responses. It's like a natural sedative, but only for alphas experiencing high stress. That's why it works, I said slowly. That's why it works for us, Demeter corrected. The question is why it works so strongly. Other omegas produce similar compounds, but not at this concentration, and not with this specificity. What does that mean? It means, he hesitated, which was unusual for Demeter. It means there might be a biological compatibility factor at play. Benny straightened. You think he's our mate? I think the data suggests a pre-bonding compatibility that's highly unusual. I felt my heart speed up. That's not possible. Mate bonds are rare, and multiple alpha bonds are almost non-existent. Demeter finished. I know. That's why I'm being careful with this conclusion. But the chemical markers are there. Your biology is specifically responding to ours. But I'm not bonded to anyone. No bite marks, no. Bonding is a choice, Benny said quietly. But compatibility isn't. You can be biologically matched to someone without ever completing the bond. So what do we do with this information? I asked. Demeter and Benny exchanged looks. Nothing, Demeter said finally. The biological compatibility explains why your presence helps, but it doesn't change the arrangement. You're here to do a job. We're not going to pressure you into anything beyond that. But if the compatibility is real, then it's real, Benny interrupted gently. But that doesn't mean we act on it. You're just coming out of a relationship with someone who used you. The last thing we want is for you to feel used here too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Demeter's test results, about biological compatibility and mate bonds, and the way all 3 brothers looked at me sometimes when they thought I wasn't paying attention. I got up, padded out to the kitchen for water, and found Dominic there. He was standing by the windows in the darkened common area, holding a glass of what looked like whiskey, staring out at the city lights. Can't sleep? he asked without turning. How did you know it was me? Your scent. I always know when you're nearby. I joined him at the window. Demeter told you about the test results. He did. What do you think? Dominic took a sip of his drink. I think biology is complicated, and feelings are more complicated, and I think you deserve better than 3 broken alphas who can barely control themselves. You're not broken. We're falling apart. The episodes are getting worse despite your presence. Did you notice? Demeter's episode lasted 20 minutes today, even with you in the next room. I had noticed. Had seen him struggling, fighting. But it ended, I said. Before, it would have gone on for hours. Before, we didn't have you to depend on. Now we do. And that's not fair to you. I chose to be here. You chose a job, not this. He gestured between us. Not whatever this is becoming. I looked at him, really looked. Saw the exhaustion he hid during the day, the fear he never let anyone else see. What if I wanted to become something? I asked quietly. Dominic's hand tightened on his glass. Don't say that. Why not? Because I can't. He stopped. Started again. Because if you say that, if you mean it, I won't be able to stay away. And staying away is the only thing protecting you right now. From what? He turned to me, finally. His eyes were dark in the dim light, intense. From us. From what we could become. From the inevitable moment when the condition wins and we lose control. I won't let you be collateral damage in our family's curse. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. But I'm not. We stood there, too close, the air between us charged with everything we weren't saying. Then Dominic stepped back. Go to bed, Stetson, please. It was the please that made me listen. The vulnerability in that word. I went back to my room, but I felt his eyes on me until I closed the door. Week 3 changed everything. Marcus showed up at the building on day 15. I was with Benny in his office when security called. There's a Marcus Whitfield in the lobby demanding to see Stetson Vale, the guard reported. Should I send him up? No, Benny said immediately. Tell him Mr. Vale doesn't wish to see him and he needs to leave the premises. He's refusing. Says he has a right to speak with his fiancée. Ex-fiancée, I corrected. Benny looked at me. Do you want to talk to him? I should have said no. Should have let security handle it. But something in me needed to face Marcus. Needed to end this properly. I'll come down. Not alone. Benny stood. I'm coming with you. We took the executive elevator down to the lobby. I could see Marcus through the glass, pacing, agitated, drawing attention from the lunchtime crowd. When he saw me, his expression cycled through relief, anger, and something calculating. Stetson, finally. He started toward me, but Benny stepped between us. Mr. Whitfield, I'm Benny Kane. We've met before. Marcus's eyes widened. Yes. At the gala. I understand you've been trying to contact Stetson. I need to speak with my fiancée. Ex-fiancée, I said again, louder this time. We're not engaged anymore, Marcus. That's not your decision to make. Our families have contracts. That I'm breaking. My lawyer will be in touch about settlement. His face flushed. You can't afford a lawyer. I can now. Because of them? He looked at Benny with undisguised contempt. You're living with 3 alphas, Stetson. Do you know what people are saying about you? I don't care what people are saying. Your parents care. They're humiliated. Their Omega son, shacking up with... Choose your next words carefully, Benny said. His voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it I'd never heard before. You're in our building, threatening our employee. That's not going to end well for you. Marcus's hands clenched. This is none of your business. It became our business when you started harassing someone under our protection. Protection? Marcus laughed. It sounded desperate. Is that what they're calling it? Stetson, you're being used. They don't care about you. They're using you for whatever fucked up reason they have. That's enough. Dominic's voice cut through the lobby like a blade. He appeared from seemingly nowhere, Demeter right behind him, both in business suits, both radiating authority that made the entire lobby go quiet. Marcus took a step back. Mr. Whitfield? Dominic said, his voice perfectly controlled. You were asked to leave. You refused. Now, I'm telling you. Leave, or we'll have you escorted out by police. You can't. We can. This is private property. You're trespassing. I just want to talk to Stetson. Alone. That's not happening, Demeter said. I felt all three brothers' close ranks around me, felt their protective instincts engage, their alpha presence flooding the space. Marcus felt it too. I saw him pale, saw survival instincts war with pride. This isn't over, he said, looking at me. Yes, I said firmly. It is. Security escorted him out. I watched through the windows as he got into his car, saw him sitting there for a moment before driving away. Are you all right? Benny asked. I'm fine. He won't stop, Dominic said. Not until we make him. Then make him. I was surprised by the steel in my own voice. Do whatever you need to do. I'm done with him. That night, I heard the roaring. It was past midnight. I'd been asleep when the sound woke me, a deep, animalistic sound that made every hair on my body stand up. I was out of bed and running before I fully processed what I was doing. The sound was coming from Dominic's wing. His bedroom door was closed, but I could hear things breaking inside. Crashes. Another roar. I tried the door. Locked. Dominic! I pounded on the wood. Dominic! Open the door! No response. Just more crashing. I ran to get the others, found them already in the hallway. How long? I asked. 10 minutes, Demeter said, his face pale. It's bad. Why didn't you come get me? Because he locked himself in specifically to keep you away, Benny said. He didn't want you to see him like this. Another crash. The sound of something heavy hitting the wall. Override the lock, I said. Stetson, do it. Now. Demeter pulled out his phone, entered a code. The lock disengaged with a click. I opened the door and stepped into chaos. Dominic's room was destroyed, furniture overturned, broken glass everywhere. And in the center of it all, Dominic, shirtless, breathing hard, his eyes that unnatural gold. He saw me and froze. No. His voice was barely human. Get out. Get out now. I didn't get out. I walked toward him. Stetson, don't. Demeter's warning from behind me, but I kept going until I was standing right in front of Dominic, close enough to touch, close enough to see the gold receding from his eyes, to see recognition fighting through the rage. I'm here, I said quietly. I'm right here. His hands were shaking. I could hurt you. You won't. You don't know that. I know you. I reached out slowly, giving him every chance to pull away. My hand touched his chest, felt his racing heart beneath my palm. You're in control. You're always in control. Not always. But his breathing was slowing, the gold fading. Then let me help you control it. His hand came up to cover mine. Warm, solid. Why aren't you afraid of me? Because I see you, I said. All of you, the strong parts and the broken parts, and none of it scares me. Something in his expression cracked. I don't deserve you, he whispered. That's not your decision to make. He laughed, a broken sound. Are you always this stubborn? Yes. And then, before I could overthink it, I stepped closer, rose on my toes, and kissed him. For a second, Dominic froze. Then his arms came around me, pulling me tight against him, and he kissed me back like a drowning man finding air. It was desperate and careful, all at once, his control warring with his need, his hands in my hair, on my back, holding me like I might disappear. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I saw his brothers in the doorway. They weren't surprised, just watching with identical expressions of want and fear. This is a bad idea, Dominic said. But he didn't let me go. Probably, I agreed. We could hurt you. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Then hurt me. I looked at all three of them, but stop pushing me away. Benny moved first, crossing the room to stand beside us. Are you sure? I'm sure. Demeter followed. This changes everything. I know. They surrounded me. 3 alphas, 3 broken men, 3 people I'd somehow come to care about in ways that defied logic. We do this, Dominic said, his voice rough. We do it right. No secrets, no lies. We tell you everything, the bad days, the episodes, all of it. Agreed. And if it gets too hard, if you want out, You can leave. No judgment. No guilt. I won't want out. You don't know that. I know enough. Benny touched my face gently. What did we do to deserve you? You found me when I was lost, I said simply. Now let me return the favor. That night, I didn't go back to my room. I stayed in Dominic's space, helping clean up the destruction while Demeter and Benny worked around us. We didn't talk about what had happened, what had shifted. We just existed in the quiet together. When the room was mostly put back together, I found myself sitting on Dominic's bed, watching the three of them. What do we do now? I asked. Now, Dominic said, sitting beside me. We figure this out together. Demeter sat on my other side. The biological compatibility is real, but that doesn't mean bonding is inevitable. But it is an option, Benny added, leaning against the wall across from us. If you want it. Do you want it? I asked. Silence. Then Dominic, yes. Demeter, yes. Benny, since the moment you walked through that door. But we're not going to pressure you, Dominic continued. This has to be your choice. What if I'm choosing it now? Then we take it slow, Demeter said. Learn each other. See if this actually works in practice, not just theory. And the bonding? Later, Dominic said firmly. When we're sure. When you're sure. Not before. It was sensible, responsible, everything I would have expected from them. But as I sat there between Dominic and Demeter, with Benny watching us with those soft eyes, I already knew my answer. I was theirs. I'd been theirs since I walked through that wrong door and found 3 alphas who needed someone to believe in them. The question wasn't if I'd bond with them. It was when the next 4 weeks were different. We were careful at first, learning each other's rhythms, boundaries, needs. Mornings still found us in the common kitchen, but now there were touches. Benny's hand on my shoulder as he passed, Demeter's fingers brushing mine when he handed me coffee. Dominic's presence at my back, solid and warm, as he reached past me for something. Small things. But they mattered. The episodes continued, but they were changing. Shorter, less violent, still terrifying to witness, but manageable. I learned that Dominic's episodes came with warning signs. His jaw would tighten, his hands would flex. If I caught it early enough, I could talk him down before it escalated. Demeter's were quieter. He'd disappear into his lab, and hours later I'd find him surrounded by broken equipment, hands bleeding from where he'd gripped glass too hard. Those nights, I'd clean his wounds while he explained the scientific breakdown of what had happened, like analyzing it made it less scary. Benny's hit without warning. One moment he'd be fine, the next he'd be on the floor, fighting transformation, fighting himself. Those were the hardest to watch because Benny felt everything so deeply. His guilt after each episode was crushing. But slowly, gradually, we were finding balance. Tell me about your family, I asked Dominic one night. We were in his room, not doing anything, just existing together while he worked on his laptop and I read. He looked up. What do you want to know? How your parents met? What they were like? His expression softened. My mother was an Omega, from a prestigious family in the Northeast. My father was the Cain Air Alpha, powerful, terrifying to most people. She wasn't scared of him. Sounds familiar. He smiled. They bonded young, had us 3 years into their marriage. Lydia came later, a surprise baby when we were 12. And the condition? Father showed symptoms when we were 8. By the time we were 10, he was having daily episodes. Mother managed him as long as she could, but he trailed off. What happened? Car accident when we were 17. He was driving during an episode, lost control. The crash killed him instantly. My chest ached. And your mother? She died 6 months later. The bond loss destroyed her. He closed his laptop. That's why we've never wanted to bond with anyone. We've seen what this condition does. Not just to us, but to the people we love. But you said the compatibility tests? Show that you might be able to survive it. Might. That's not a guarantee, Stetson. Nothing in life is guaranteed. This is different. Is it? I set down my book. Every relationship is a risk, every bond. You're just more aware of the specific dangers. Aware enough to know what we're asking of you is unfair. I moved closer. What if I'm willing to accept unfair? His hand came up to cup my cheek. Then you're braver than we deserve. I learned to read their moods, learned that Demeter processed through research. If he was anxious, he'd bury himself in data until he found answers. Learned that Benny needed physical activity when episodes threatened. I'd find him in the building's gym, running until exhaustion. And Dominic. Dominic needed control, structure, routine. When things felt chaotic, I'd help him create order. Organize his schedule, streamline his meetings, give him problems he could solve. "You're good at this," Lydia observed one afternoon. We were in my studio. She'd started coming by regularly, working on compositions together. "Good at what?" "Taking care of them without making it obvious that's what you're doing." She played a chord progression. "They've never let anyone this close before. They're letting me close because I'm useful. They're letting you close because they love you." My hands stilled on the keys. "They haven't said that." "They don't have to. I can see it," she smiled. "And I can see you love them back." "Is it that obvious?" "To someone who knows what to look for? Yes." I played a few notes. "I'm scared, Lydia. Of the condition? Of everything. Of bonding with them and losing them. Of not bonding and regretting it. Of being wrong about this whole thing." "You're not wrong," she said it with certainty. "I've watched them my whole life, watched them push people away, keep everyone at distance. They're not doing that with you. Because I calm their episodes. No, because you make them want to be better. There's a difference." Week 7 brought Marcus back. This time, he didn't come to the building. He went to my parents. I got the call at 1:00 p.m., my mother, crying. "Stetson, what have you done?" "What are you talking about?" "Marcus's family is pulling their investment. Your father's company is going under. They're saying it's because you broke the engagement contract." My stomach dropped. "Mom, we're losing everything. The business, the house, our savings. All because you couldn't just do what was expected of you. Marcus cheated on me. With Ivy." "I know." Her voice was cold. "Ivy told us everything, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you made a commitment and you broke it. He was using me. Everyone uses everyone in business, Stetson. That's how it works. You marry for advantage, not love. I thought you understood that." I felt something inside me crack. "So you want me to go back to him? Marry someone who doesn't love me, who betrayed me, just to save your business? I want you to think about someone other than yourself for once." She was crying harder now. "Your father is 63 years old. He can't start over. This company has been in our family for 3 generations. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you used me as collateral." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat there on my bed, trying to process what had just happened. A knock on my door. "Stetson?" Benny's voice. "Can I come in?" I opened the door. He took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms. "What happened?" I told him. Everything. My mother's call, the threats, the guilt she was trying to weaponize. "They can't ask that of you," Benny said, his voice tight. "They already did. Then we fix it." "How?" "However we need to." He pulled back to look at me. "How much does your father's company need?" "I don't know. Millions, probably. Then we'll give them millions." "Benny, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." He cupped my face. "You matter more than money. You matter more than business deals or family companies or anything else. If this is what it takes to free you from them, we'll do it." "Why?" "Because we love you, Stetson. I love you. Dominic loves you. Demeter loves you. And we're not going to let anyone hurt you. Not your parents, not Marcus, not anyone." I was crying now. "You love me?" "Since the moment you walked through that door and made everything stop hurting." He kissed my forehead. "So yes, we'll fix this. All of it." Dominic handled it personally. He called my father the next morning and made an offer. Kane Industries would acquire the struggling company, absorb the debts, and retain all current employees. My father would stay on as a consultant with a generous salary. Everyone kept their jobs. The catch: Marcus's family's investment was rejected. The contract between our families was formally dissolved, and I owed them nothing. My father took the deal. Of course he did. "You didn't have to do that," I told Dominic afterward. "Yes, I did." We were in his office. City spread below us. "You needed to be free. Now you are." They're never going to forgive me. Does that matter? I thought about it. About years of making myself smaller to fit their expectations. Years of being the perfect Omega son. No, I realized. It doesn't. He smiled. Good. That night, I found all three of them in the common area. They'd made dinner well. Benny had made dinner while the other two supervised, and they were waiting for me. What's this? I asked. Celebration, Demeter said. Of what? You're free. Benny pulled out a chair. From Marcus, from your parents' expectations, from all of it. That deserves celebration. We ate together, talking and laughing in a way we hadn't before, like something had shifted, like we'd crossed some invisible line. After dinner, Dominic pulled out a small box. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a key, simple, silver. It's to our private medical suite, Dominic said. The room where you found us. We're giving you full access. Why? Because you're part of this now, Demeter said. Not as an employee, not as a consultant, as one of us. We want you here, Benny added. Not because you calm our episodes, but because we can't imagine being without you. I looked at the key, at what it represented. Trust, inclusion, family. What about the bonding? I asked. They exchanged glances. What about it? Dominic asked carefully. I want it. I want to be bonded to all three of you. Silence. Then Benny, are you sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back. You'd be tied to us, to our condition, our future, whatever happens. I'm already tied to you. The bond would just make it official. But the risk, Demeter started. I know the risks. You've told me 100 times. And I'm choosing this anyway. Dominic stood, crossed to where I sat, dropped to his knees in front of me. Say it again, he said. I want to bond with you, all of you. His eyes searched mine. You're not going to change your mind? No. Even knowing what we are, what we might become? Even knowing. He stood, pulled me to my feet, and kissed me, deep and claiming, and full of everything he'd been holding back. When we broke apart, Demeter and Benny were there too. When? Demeter asked. I looked at all three of them, these alphas who'd become everything to me. Now, I said, why wait? Week 8, day 2. The day everything changed. Dr. Cross prepared the medical suite, not for an episode this time, but for the bonding ceremony. This is highly unusual, she said, setting up monitors. Pack bonds are rare enough, but a 3-alpha bond? I've never even heard of one being completed. Is there any medical risk? I asked. To you? The marking itself will be painful. 3 bites means 3 separate bond formations happening simultaneously. Your body will be processing a massive influx of alpha pheromones all at once. But I'll survive? The scans show you should, but I'll be monitoring throughout. If anything goes wrong, it won't, Dominic said. He stood by the windows looking out at the city, nervous energy radiating from him. Demeter was rechecking all the medical equipment, compulsive, his way of managing anxiety. And Benny sat beside me, holding my hand. Last chance to back out, he said quietly. I'm not backing out. Even though we're terrified we'll hurt you? Even though. Lydia appeared in the doorway. Can I say something before you do this? Of course, I said. She came in, looked at her brothers, then at me. I've watched them suffer my entire life, watched them push away everyone who tried to get close, watched them slowly break under the weight of this condition. Her eyes were wet. And then you showed up, and for the first time since our parents died, I've seen them happy, really happy. She hugged me tight. Thank you for giving them that, for giving me back my brothers. Then she left, giving us privacy. Dr. Cross finished her setup. Whenever you're ready. I looked at the 3 of them. How does this work? We mark you simultaneously, Dominic explained. The bond should form immediately. Should? This has never been done before. We're improvising. Reassuring. Do you want to stop? No, I stood. I want to start. They surrounded me, close but not touching, waiting. Where do I need to be? I asked. Anywhere you're comfortable, Benny said. This isn't about ceremony. It's about choice. I sat on the edge of the medical bed. They moved with me, arranging themselves. Dominic on my left, Demeter on my right, Benny in front of me, crouched so we were eye level. "This is going to hurt," Dominic warned. "I know. And once it's done, you'll feel us. All the time. Our emotions, our pain, everything. I want that. Even the bad parts? Especially the bad parts." Demeter touched my shoulder. "Ready?" I looked at each of them, at the men I loved, the alphas who'd become my home. "I'm ready." They bit simultaneously. The pain was instant and overwhelming. 3 points of fire on my neck, left side, right side, the juncture where neck met shoulder. I gasped, my body going rigid. But then something else happened. Warmth flooded through me. Not from the bites, but from somewhere deeper. The bonds snapping into place. One after another after another. Dominic's bond settled first. Strong, unwavering, like stone foundations. Then Demeter's. Sharp, analytical, like the first bright line of data making sense. Finally Benny's. Soft, warm, like coming home after being lost. And underneath all of it, I felt them, really felt them. Dominic's fear that he'd hurt me, his love so fierce it was terrifying, his determination to be better, Demeter's constant calculation, his mind processing everything, his quiet certainty that this was right. Benny's joy and relief and love all tangled together, so intense it took my breath away. They released me carefully, all of them breathing hard. I touched my neck, felt the 3 marks there, still bleeding slightly. "How do you feel?" Dr. Cross asked, watching monitors. I couldn't describe it. Everything. I feel everything. "That's the bond," she confirmed. "It'll settle in a few hours. Right now it's raw and new." I looked at them, at my alphas, my pack, and I saw the moment they felt it too. Dominic's eyes widened. "I can feel you." "So can I," Demeter breathed. "This is incredible," Benny finished. We sat there, just experiencing it. The bonds pulsing between us like living things. "Check the monitors," Dominic said to Dr. Cross. She was already looking. "Oh my God." "What?" She turned the screen so we could see. "Your cortisol levels. Your neural patterns. All 3 of you. They're normalizing. Not just managing, actually normalizing." "What does that mean?" "It means the bond is working better than we hoped. It's not just suppressing episodes. It's actually correcting the underlying neurological dysfunction." Demeter stared at the data. "That's impossible." "I'm looking at it. It's happening." "The bond is healing us," Dominic said slowly. "It appears so. I'll need more time to confirm, but initial readings are promising." Their disbelief showed in the way they stared at the monitors. Hope flickered in Benny's eyes. Dominic's jaw tightened, afraid to believe it might actually work. "It's real," I said. "I can feel it. You're calmer. All of you." Because I could. The connection between us let me sense their internal states, and what had been constant, low-level agitation was settled, calm. "We need to monitor this closely," Demeter said, already in scientist mode. "Track patterns, run more tests." "Later," Benny interrupted. "Right now, I just want to be here, with all of you." So we were. Dr. Cross left us alone, taking her equipment but leaving the monitors running. And we stayed in that room, in the space where I'd first found them, where everything had started. "How do you feel?" I asked them. "Different," Dominic said. "More settled inside." "Stable," Demeter added. "Whole," Benny finished. I leaned against Dominic's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me close. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For walking through that door. For staying. For choosing us." "I'd choose you again," I said. "Every time." That night, I didn't sleep in my room. I stayed with them, in Dominic's space, all of us together. It should have been awkward, 4 people navigating new bonds, new dynamics. But it wasn't. It felt natural. Right. Like we'd always been meant to be this way. The next morning, reality came crashing back. The board of directors had gotten wind of something. There were rumors circulating about the triplet's condition, about medical treatments, about me. "Someone leaked information," Demeter said at breakfast. We were all in the kitchen, tired but content. "The board is calling an emergency meeting." "When?" Dominic asked. "This afternoon." Do we know who leaked? Not yet. But the damage is done. They're going to question our fitness to run the company. What do we do? I asked. Dominic's shoulders straightened, strategic mode activated. Beside him, Demeter's fingers drummed the table, already processing options. Benny's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. We face it head on, Dominic decided. No more hiding. We tell them the truth. That we have a genetic condition? Benny looked skeptical. That we had a genetic condition, and that we found treatment. Treatment being, Demeter trailed off. Me, I said. I'm the treatment. We can't tell them that, Dominic said. They'll think we're insane. Then we show them the data. Dr. Cross has weeks of monitoring. We have proof that the episodes have stopped. Since the bonding, Demeter added. Which means we'll have to disclose the bond. That was the real issue. Public bond announcements were normal, but a 3-alpha pack bond? That would cause chaos. Let them be shocked, I said. As long as you're healthy and competent, what does it matter? They looked at each other. That silent communication I'd come to recognize. Then Dominic nodded. We go public with everything. The condition, the bond, all of it. Better they hear it from us than from rumors. The board meeting was brutal. 13 directors sat around a massive conference table, all of them old alphas who'd been with Kane Industries for decades. They looked at me with varying degrees of suspicion and distrust. Gentlemen, Dominic began, I'm sure you've heard rumors. Let me address them directly. He told them everything. The genetic condition that ran in their family, the episodes, the struggle to manage it. For the past 2 months, he concluded, we've been working with a specialist. The treatment has been remarkably effective. What treatment? One director demanded. There is no treatment for this condition. We've researched it extensively. There wasn't a treatment, Demeter corrected. We developed one. Developed how? This was where it got complicated. Through bonding, Benny said simply. We've bonded with an omega whose biochemistry specifically counteracts our condition. Silence. Then chaos. You bonded? With whom? Since when? Dominic held up a hand. Stetson Vale. He's been consulting for us since the gala. The bond was completed 2 days ago. All eyes turned to me. I stood, trying to look more confident than I felt. Mr. Vale, the lead director said, you're claiming that your bond with the Kane brothers has cured their condition? Not cured, I corrected. Managed. The neurological symptoms have stabilized. Dr. Cross can provide detailed medical data. Dr. Cross is their personal physician, hardly an unbiased source. Then bring in outside experts, Demeter challenged. Run independent tests. We're not hiding anything. This is highly irregular, another director said. Pack bonds are rare enough. But claiming one has medical benefits? We're not claiming anything, Dominic said. We're stating facts. Test us. Monitor us. You'll see the improvement. The meeting went on for hours. Questions. Challenges. Demands for proof. Finally, the lead director called for a vote. All those in favor of requiring the Kane brothers to undergo independent medical evaluation before retaining their positions? Every hand went up. And all those in favor of allowing them to continue their duties pending those evaluations? Fewer hands, but enough. Very well. You have 2 weeks to provide independent medical verification that you're fit to run this company. Until then, you'll remain in your positions, but under board supervision. It wasn't ideal, but it was survivable. We left the meeting together. Frustration radiated from all 3 of them, the anger at being questioned, the worry that somehow the tests would fail despite all evidence. We'll pass, I said once we were alone in the elevator. The data is solid. The data shows correlation, not causation, Demeter argued. They could argue it's temporary, that the episodes will come back. Then we prove they won't. How? Benny asked. I looked at all 3 of them. By living our lives, by being stable and competent and showing them that the bond works. Dominic pulled me close. His arms wrapped tight around me, his chin resting on top of my head. Gratitude, love, determination. I read it all in the way he held me. We can do this, he said. Together. The next 2 weeks were intense. Independent medical teams came in, ran tests, monitored the brothers constantly. I stayed close throughout, Watched them endure test after test with mounting tension, but also with something that looked like hope. The results were undeniable. Cortisol levels, normal. Neural patterns, stable. No episodes recorded. "This is extraordinary," one of the evaluators said. "I've never seen a case like this. The condition is still present in their genetics, but it's completely dormant." "What changed?" another asked. "The pack bond, doctor," Cross explained. "Mr. Vale's omega biochemistry is producing compounds that directly counteract the alpha neurological dysfunction. It's a perfect biological match. But is it sustainable? All evidence suggests yes. As long as the bond remains intact, the condition should remain managed." The board reconvened on day 14. This time, their expressions were different, less hostile, more curious. "The medical evidence is compelling," the lead director said, "but we need assurance that this situation is stable." "It's as stable as any bond," Dominic said. "That's not sufficient. We need legal guarantees." "What kind of guarantees?" "That Mr. Vale remains bonded to you, that he doesn't leave and trigger a relapse." The rage was instant. All three brothers tensed, Dominic's hands curling into fists, Demeter going rigid, Benny's jaw clenching. "You're asking us to legally bind our mate to us?" Dominic's voice was dangerous. "To trap him? We're asking for stability assurance." "Absolutely not," Benny said. "Then we can't approve." "I'll do it," I interrupted. Everyone looked at me. "I'll sign whatever you need. Legal commitment to maintain the bond." Dominic's voice filled my head. "Stetson, no." "It's fine," I said aloud. "I'm not leaving anyway. You shouldn't have to prove that legally. But if it keeps you in control of the company, I will." The lead director nodded. "Very well. We'll have documents drawn up." After the meeting, Dominic pulled me aside. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. They were going to remove you otherwise. We would have survived. But you built this company. You deserve to run it." I touched his face. "Besides, I meant what I said. I'm not leaving, legal document or not." He kissed me then, deep and claiming, gratitude and love and fierce possessiveness all tangled into one moment. When we broke apart, Demeter and Benny were there too. "You're too good for us," Demeter said. "I'm exactly what you need," I corrected. 6 months after the bonding, life had settled into a new normal. The board had approved our arrangement, the legal documents were signed, the company was thriving, and the brothers were healthy, completely stable. No episodes in 6 months. Not one. "It's permanent, doctor," Cross confirmed during a routine checkup. "The bond has fundamentally altered their neurological patterns. As long as you three remain bonded, the condition is dormant." The relief was visible, Dominic's shoulders dropping for the first time in months, Demeter's quiet exhale, Benny's brilliant smile breaking across his face. That night, we celebrated. Lydia came over with champagne. We all gathered in the common area, toasting to survival, to love, to finding each other against impossible odds. "You know," Lydia said, slightly tipsy, "I always knew you'd save them." "I didn't save anyone," I protested. "You did, though," Benny said. "Before you, we were drowning. Now we're living." "We're all living," Dominic corrected, pulling me close. "That's what pack means." I looked around at my family, at these alphas who'd become everything to me, at Lydia, who'd accepted me immediately. "I walked through the wrong door," I said. "Or exactly the right one," Demeter replied. We stayed up late, talking and laughing, the city lights glowing below us. Love, contentment, home. The bond hummed with it, an unshakable knowledge that this was exactly where we belonged. Marcus made one final appearance 3 months later. He showed up at a charity event we were attending, all 4 of us, public and bonded and undeniable. He'd lost weight, looked older, harder. "Stetson," he said, approaching carefully. "Can we talk?" My alphas tensed immediately. Dominic shifted closer. Demeter's hand found my lower back. Benny moved to my other side. A wall of protection. "It's okay," I said to them, then to Marcus. "What do you want?" "To apologize. For everything. For how I treated you, for Ivy, for trying to force you back." Apology noted. I didn't understand what I had, I thought. He looked at the brothers, at me standing between them, clearly bonded, clearly happy. I thought you were just convenient. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Are you happy? With them? I looked at Dominic, at Demeter, at Benny. Their love was written in every protective stance, every concerned glance. Happier than I've ever been. Marcus nodded. Good. You deserve that. He started to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm glad you found what you were looking for. He left. Satisfaction and triumph radiated from my pack. We'd faced him together and come out stronger. That was surprisingly mature of him, Benny observed. People change, I said. Sometimes too late, but they change. Not us, though, Dominic said. We're not changing. You're stuck with us. Good, I replied, because I'm not going anywhere. 1 year after the bonding, everything had transformed. The company was stronger than ever, the brothers' health was perfect, and our bond had deepened in ways I couldn't have imagined. I'd learned to navigate their different needs, their different communication styles. Learned that Dominic needed physical touch to feel grounded, that Demeter needed intellectual engagement, that Benny needed emotional reassurance. And they'd learned me too, learned that I needed space sometimes, needed my music, needed to feel like I was contributing, not just being protected. We'd found balance. The apartment had changed too. My guest room was now actually a shared studio where all of us worked sometimes. We'd knocked down walls, created flow between spaces. It felt like home, real home. I have something for you, Dominic said one evening. We were alone, the others were working late. He handed me a small box. Inside was a key, different from the medical suite key. This one was ornate, old-fashioned. What's this? To a property I bought, for us. Us? All of us. A house outside the city. Somewhere we can go when we need space from the company, from everything. Somewhere that's just ours. My throat tightened. You bought us a house? I bought our pack a home. There's a difference. I kissed him, every ounce of gratitude and love flowing into that single moment. When I pulled back, he was smiling. Is that a yes? That's a yes. That weekend, we went to see it. The house was beautiful, modern but warm, with enough space for all of us, with a music room that made me want to cry, with gardens and privacy and peace. This is perfect, I said. We thought so too, Demeter said, appearing behind me with Benny. Wait, you all knew? It was Dominic's idea, Benny admitted, but we all contributed. The music room was my design. Demeter handled all the technical installations. And the gardens? I asked, looking at the beautiful landscaping. Lydia, all three said together. Of course. We spent the day exploring, planning, imagining our life there. And that night, lying together in the empty master bedroom, watching stars through the skylight, I realized something. I'd found exactly what I was looking for. Not by planning, not by trying, but by walking through a wrong door and being brave enough to stay. What are you thinking? Benny asked, his head on my shoulder. That I love you, all of you. We know, Dominic said from my other side. He traced circles on my palm. We can feel it. Not just through the bonds, Benny murmured against my shoulder. Through everything you do. Demeter shifted closer. Are you happy, Stetson? Happier than I ever thought possible. Good, all three said together. Their love wrapped around me not just through the bond, but in the way Dominic's hand tightened on mine, the way Demeter pulled me closer, the way Benny's smile reached his eyes, warm, safe, home. I'd walked through the wrong door and found 3 broken alphas hiding a secret. But they weren't broken anymore, and the secret was no longer shameful. We were a pack, a family, home, and that was worth everything. The end. Sometimes the wrong door leads to exactly where you need to be. Sometimes broken pieces fit together into something stronger than they ever were apart. Sometimes love finds you in the unlikeliest places and refuses to let go. If Stetson's journey from betrayal to belonging, from employee to mate, from stranger to pack touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Thanks for listening.